It is a beautiful Wednesday morning here on Echo Television International, and you are welcome to the Dailies. I am Rachel Tanze, and I have Lois Turaki with me. Good morning, Lois. How's your night?
You went well?
How's
yours?
Mine was great.
You're doing good.
Yeah, I'm doing
You're
good.
looking, yellowish.
Oh, I can say same for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you too.
Don't forget that we are live on Facebook and on YouTube, so please join us, drop your comments. We want to know your opinions on what is happening in the country and then the world at large. And Lois will be starting with the papers, starting with the leadership newspaper.
Yes, the leadership newspaper. The big story here says at Leadership Awards, only drastic actions can save Nigeria's economy, says Mogalu. You can find details of the story on page 4. And the writer says, advises Tinubu to rejig cabinet, go after bank CEOs over forex manipulations. Economy not in distress, president replies. Awards push to do more, says governors. I'm not desperate to be president, according to OB, and we recognize those daring to seize possibilities. This is coming from Nda Isaiah. From the top, we have cool threats. Army has no desire to truncate democracy. This is from Lagbaja. Dollar video, only EFCC can prosecute Ganduje. This is coming from the court. You can find details on page 22 of the leadership newspaper. And then coming down, we have trending, seek help from Zimbabwe on inflation crisis. And AFDB approves 134 million US dollars for Nigeria's food production. And the last story here says, honesty, Kano Keke rider Awelu reaps 250 million naira PhD scholarship. If you're interested in this story, you can find more details on page 7 of the leadership newspaper, and that's all the stories you can find in leadership.
On Vanguard newspaper, Dangote plans trading arm for refinery. You can find details on page 19. And concerning Lagos local government areas, huge allocation, little development. Apapa gridlock returns, trucks ignore Sanwo-Olu's directive. And on Edo Guba, PDP moves to reconcile aggrieved members, holds SWC meetings. You can find details on page 29. Nigerians shouldn't be hungry, insecure, Sharia Council tells the federal government. Why good leadership eludes Africa, coming from Obasanjo, Jonathan, and Mahama. You can find details on page 8. The big story on Vanguard, Nigeria must battle rising food insecurity as priority. Coming from IMF, the writer says capping fuel price, low electricity tariffs could cost Nigeria's 3% of GDP. Calls for cash transfer program implementation. We must go into production to escape hardship, a statement from governors. How Nigeria can stabilize forex, overcome economic woes, a statement from Mogalu. And then, I'm not afraid to be president, a statement from Peter Obi. Nigeria's acceptance of grains from war-torn Ukraine, no sign of failure, coming from the federal government. You can find all the details on page 5. 4 billion naira COVID-19 grant, operators not indebted to federal government. Others United Airlines CEO replies reps. Meta reacts through Twitter as Facebook Instagram crash. More details can be found on page 2. Still on the paper, deadline on NIM account linkage. Most banks yet to implement directive. Accounts without BVN registered. This is coming from a consumer group. Details can be found on page 20. We have a column on page 9 coming from Abaja, and on African Team Nigeria's first medal in Accra. You can find details on page 31. And then we have picture story where we see Ogun Commission's MSME Fashion Hub, where we can see the governor there. And that's all the news on Vanguard newspaper.
Now to the Blueprint newspaper. From the top, we have Integrity fetches Kanu Keke rider at 250 million naira base varsity scholarship. the Blueprint newspaper. And Benue confirms Lassa fever measles outbreak. Again, there's still issue of measles outbreak, and then the other day we had in Katsina,
Yes.
and then now it's Benue that are confirming Lassa fever and measles outbreak, and all these measles related to heat. And you know, a friend of mine was in Abuja, and he said the heat here is so much, and he just came in from abroad, and it was somehow for him. And I was like, maybe you should try to get yourself things that will make you feel comfortable while you're still in the country and all of that. So people around those areas, even just that can be very cold, it's hot right now. So you should try and see how you can protect yourself or help you stay away from the measles and then other heat-related illnesses and sicknesses. And on business, we have our operations not affected by Bank of Ghana sanctions. This is coming from First Bank Ghana. On sports, All African Games, Edem wins Nigeria's first medal in table tennis. And the big story on the Blueprint newspaper says Buhari's 30 trillion ways and means others reasons for nation's woes. This is coming from Mogalu. And the writer says, be patient with our reforms. Tinubu begs Nigerians again. And grain donation from Ukraine not shameful. This is coming from Idris. And implements cash transfer to save low-income earners. IMF urges the federal government. From the down part of the paper, you see Zamfara troops rescue 15 kidnapped victims, neutralize bandits. More details you can find on page 7. Kebbi to provide free petrol on Ramadan relief for masses. You can find details if you're so interested in the story on page 14 of Blueprint newspaper. Suicide. 3 children of deceased mother get Enugu governor's wife scholarship. In the last story on the Blueprint newspaper here says military won't truncate Nigeria's democracy. This is coming from Lagbaja. You can find details of the story on page 6, and these are all the stories you can find on the Blueprint newspaper.
On the Guardian newspaper, the big story, consumers switch to used gadgets as FX crisis worsens tech adoption. And then there are some breakdowns here of what used to be the prices before and what it is now. And then we have for laptops, we have Core 14 used to be 520,000, now is at 1.5 million naira. We are seeing the same for Core 15 at 350, and now it's 700,000. And then we have Pavilion, we have it at 460 before, now it's over a million naira. And then we can go for smartphones, Androids from 115,000 to 3 million, and we have iPhones from 550,000 to over 2 million naira. And then we have featured phones from 50,000 to and above right now. And then we have smart watches from 150,000 to 550,000. Also that for smart TVs, once you could get 220,000, and now you need over 800,000 and a million. And also that for refrigerators, we have single door from 155 to 330, double door from 450 to over 900,000. And then I believe that something like the refrigerator is, everything here is important. And I'm thinking maybe we can just go back to, you know, how perhaps our forefathers used to store food, where you dry your meat and you just dry everything. Because it's really sad that a lot of these things are not luxury. It's really sad. It looks like we are claiming that we want to be digital and we want to be global. And everything here is not a luxury. Depending on your profession, depending on your work, depending on whatever you do, this is important for us to compete with the digital world. And then if these are becoming this expensive, then certain necessities begin to look like luxury. And that is the problem with the forest crisis that we're having in the country, that basic needs are starting to look like luxury. We need the computers to transact business and to link up globally. We need our smartphones, and we're looking at the refrigerators. Once upon a time, when a season for a certain food come in, we can do example with the plateau. When it's tomato season, for example, that's where bulk buying kicks in. Exactly. And then you have your fridge and you can store it in. And now I'm imagining, can people really go to the market and afford this storage system that is important for you to be able to keep your food for a long time? Looking at the food insecurity crisis and all of that, and it's really sad that basic necessities are beginning to look like luxury. It's like, it's you that want it, is no longer looking like a need, and it's really sad.
It's really sad, Rachel. We keep saying this thing because you said things that are necessities now are becoming like luxury, like they're things. You know, before there are things that you feel, okay, it's the rich that have it, but over time we realize that, okay, you also can afford to buy these things. These things were really affordable over some years past. They were affordable. You can get it. Even I remember then, when you go to people's house sometimes and you see gas, you feel, these people are need to,
yes,
and all of that. But then over time, people realize that it's affordable. I can use it, and so many people are still using gas, and then all of a sudden, it becomes something that the common man
is for the rich, and then
and then you go to cell phones. You go to Amadu Bello way here in Jos, and you ask for price of a phone, and then the phone that you normally will buy at maybe 40,000.
We're looking at flagship phones being outrageously expensive, and then we're looking at potato phones. That's the normal, Android phones that a common man could afford, going as expensive as what flagship phones used to be in the past, and then it's really.
And then people can't even go to buy now. When you lose your phone to pickpockets or robbers or whatever, or is damaged, you start thinking of how, because if it's not part of your budget, you would think and you would think and at the end of the day you might spend months without a phone, because even the button phones now
is expensive.
No, a common man might not be able to afford, because you're thinking of buying food for yourself, for your children. Is it phone that I should just rather feed the phone. Anybody that wants to talk to me should look for me anyhow or any way you
just go back to sending letters.
Yes. Well, maybe. So you see, it's quite unfortunate that we right now are going through all of this, and we are facing all of these things. We hope that things will get better. Hoping so that things will at least come down to a minimum, the barest minimum.
The naira gaining some value,
and that people can be able to afford the normal things of life, the necessities, not the luxury.
Not the luxury, yes. Still on the Guardian newspaper, we have fresh doping hurdles for Team Nigeria ahead of Olympics. Reps uncover fraud in seaport concession and summon ministers. You can find details on page 28. No country provides equal opportunities for women. This is coming from World Bank. You can find details on page 3. Alleged dollar bribe court stops Ganduje's probe. More food-laden trucks seized at borders as IMF seeks end to hardship. Federal government maintains UAE visa ban on Nigerian subsidies. Insider collaboration responsible for over 70% of bank fraud, says EFCC. Sharia Council urges federal government to end hunger and insecurity. And that's all news on the Guardian newspaper.
Moving now to The Nation. From the top, our economy not in distress, says Tinubu. The writer says reforms will take country out of challenges. 72,000 tractors needed to enhance food security. And Binance exits Nigeria over forex crisis. The writer says House launches probe. The big story on The Nation newspaper says congrats to Tinubu, the visionary, and Sanwo-Olu, the actualizer. The writer says in 2025, Ondo will understudy Sanwo-Olu. This is coming from Jimo Ibrahim. And the commissioning of the Blue Line Rail by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu after that of the Red Line Rail last year is testament to the power of vision the imperative of continuity and diligent execution. The Babajide Sanwo-Olu government has scored a great goal. Lagos has set the pace for other states to follow. Well, I think Lagos really setting the pace. Is really setting the pace for other states.
I mean, boys, would we have expected anything less if you were a state in the position of Lagos? There is an advantage, right?
Of course,
and I'm not saying is an excuse for other states to sit down and not do anything because we are blessed. Every state has one natural solid mineral, and if only the government should have done better, we would see more revenue and better improvement and development in our state. But at the same time, I think anything less from Lagos will be a disappointment because they are by nature in an advantageous position and also have had a government that took that advantage and made use of it to the fullest. So yes, they are stating and they are setting the pace and they are doing a good job, and I believe that other governors too need to take from them because you also have resources that could put you on the map and could make your state develop and better.
I feel it's a challenge for, I know there are many other states that are trying, their governors, the past leaders, even the present governors are trying to see that they push the state forward to also set the pace for other states. So it's really an encouragement for other governors to see how they can move and do better things for the infrastructure and other things for the state to benefit. We don't always have to wait for the federal at the federal level to do all this. The state is what people should benefit from more, and then it's a good step. And these are all the stories you can find on the Nation newspaper.
On Nigerian Tribune, Binance ends Naira services after government crackdown. I received an email today. I mean, not like I've been trading with it, though, but I once opened an account, never verified. But then I received an email today, and I was like, oh, I even forgot about you. But it is a blow for a lot of people who are in the cryptocurrency trading, for a lot of Nigerians, and it always feels like one attack after the other when it comes to. And I mean, it's blockchain. It is not supervised. The federal government can be scared about it. It's fraudulent on so many levels and all of that. At the same time, I believe that regulations could have been the best way forward than all of the ban on foreign exchange and all of that. Sit down, review. How are we going to make sure that, you know what this is? I mean, we have developed countries that could even do without it, embracing it. And you have a generation and you're talking about digital economy, and then you are frustrating the most lucrative aspect of it. It's difficult. Just as I said, when it comes to blockchain technology, it's difficult to say we can regulate because it's not owned by anybody, it's not controlled by anybody. It's just a no man land. Let's put it like that. At the same time, there is so many ways that we could go about it, regulations, policies that will be able to allow youth, because I believe this is something mainly for the youths that are able to channel their energy towards it and get some resources by trading. But then this is the action we keep seeing from the federal government. And then last year was a complete ban completely, and then now we are seeing. So we just hope that it's temporary, in as much as they are withdrawing. I just hope that it's in a bid to sit down and say, let's review this thing more. We need to embrace, we need to embrace every technology advancement, everything that can generate revenue in the country, just whatever will make people be able to make ends meet in the country. If we want to be global and compete internationally, then we should be able to just put regulations for these things rather than just, you know, saying we don't need it completely, because we do need it a lot.
I totally agree with you. I believe that regulations should be put forward in place so that they will checkmate some of these things instead of just banning it and you know, making people lose money and all of you see someone puts money and then at the end of the day they say it has crashed or it has been banned or something, and then what do you want the person to make of his life? You have to start from the scratch. What if you put everything you had into that and then at the end of the day it's banned or crashed or whatever, that the person cannot benefit, because whatever you are planning to, or you are saying you want to go into, or you have gone into, you are expecting returns, right? So that you'll be able to do other things or get a better livelihood for yourself. And at the end of the day, if you don't achieve that, a lot of things can come out of all of this. So it's good that
I think we might have more criminals now out there on the
and
news.
Then more depressed people, and you know. So it's good that they look at do something about it. We should look at the advantage, not so much dwell on the disadvantage of all of these technologies that are coming.
Still on Nigerian Tribune, we have power outage delay plenary at Senate. Okay, that is a serious one. You can find details on page 10. Army has no desire to truncate democracy. The big story on the paper, why Africa is poor despite $96.5 trillion natural wealth. This is coming from African Development Bank President Adesina. You can find details on page 15. Writer says, explains how Nigeria, other African countries are being helped to overcome food insecurity. We saw the African Development Bank giving over $134 million aid towards agriculture. And then to receive our leadership award today, join Shoyinka Mbeki Afebabalola on exclusive list. Says father started as poor farmer without education for first 14 years of life. Tinubu must not jettison restructuring. This is coming from Afenifere. You can find details of that statement on page 21. EFCC arrests 21 food-laden truck bound for Chad and Cameroon. Osun judiciary workers suspend 3-month strike. Accepting grain from Ukraine doesn't translate to failure of federal government, replies Peter Obi. Nigeria must recruit selfless transformational leaders, coming from Obasanjo. Jonathan Mahama, Kuka Abiodun, others honor him at 87. Although Guba PDP may adopt zoning, stakeholders fail to reach agreement on consensus candidate. 2020 laws taught us bitter lessons, a statement from Makinde. Details of his statement can be found on page 10, and that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
Moving to the Punch, the big story here says food smuggling. FG intercepts 141 grain trucks. Drivers threaten strike over attacks. The writer says customs sees 120 smuggled grain trucks. EFCC intercepts 21. Tinubu orders sale of forfeited food. Truck owners threaten to stop transporting food over attacks, saying no insurance for looted foodstuffs. And you can find details of the story on page 2. I think if these people stop transporting food, we'll have more on food insecurity. Because, like we said yesterday, we don't support criminality, because you going to loot food that is not yours, it's an act of criminality. So I think something should be done about this whole looted food and everything, so that if not, they have to transport food from different parts of the country. There are things that are being grown around here, and when you go to another state, you can't find it there, because so you find it there because it was brought in. And even if you can grow it in that, maybe you won't be able to grow it in a large quantity for everybody to be able to get it across. So I think something needs to be done. The security agencies should be top on this particular issue, because a lot is already happening about shortage of food and all of that, and then them stopping the distribution again, it's going to cause more harm than good. So I think something should be done about this particular issue. And then from the top, we have Obasanjo unveils new book on leadership at 87th birthday. You can find details on page 45 of the Punch. Nigeria's electricity fuel subsidies make up 7 trillion naira. This is coming from IMF. Army chief dismisses coup calls, demands good leadership. And from down of the paper, you have 767 manufacturers shut down in 2023. This is coming from MAN. And trial suspected killer of Ekiti monarchs remanded. And the last story here says reps grill ministers over ports consensus on Tuesday. You can find details on page 29.
On Daily Sun newspaper, I'm not desperate to be president, a statement from Peter Obi. Insists it's shame for Nigeria to get grains from war-torn Ukraine. Nothing wrong with accepting aid, a statement from minister. The big story, how we are taking economy out of woods, a statement from Tinubu. Admits country facing challenges, but insists economy not distressed. Sharia Council blasts federal government for poor state of affairs. Wants no solution to issues bedeviling nation until leaders summon political will to tackle corruption. Democracy not under threat, coming from Labacha Army Chief. More details can be found on page 27. Ogun Governor Abiodun eulogizes Obasanjo, calls him champion for good governance. The Sun publisher partners school to promote STEM studies among girls. You can find details on page 6. And on Lassa fever, Benue activates emergency operations center as death toll rises to 13. UAE has not lifted visa ban, says the federal government. Commuters groan as protesters block Benin Auchi Lokoja Road. You can find more details on page 4. Still on Daily Sun, hardship not ending soon. Ex-CBN Deputy Governor warns. Labels Jonathan Buhari Tinubu's era years of locust. You can find details on page 26. Our blueprint ready. This is coming from a Afenifere concerning restructuring, I believe is a statement to President Tinubu. You can find details on page 29. We have a picture story from left to right. We can see former President Goodluck Jonathan, the celebrant that is Obasanjo, that's former President Olusegun Obasanjo, Governor Dapo Abiodun of Ogun, and Doye Diri of Bayelsa at a public lecture to mark the 87th birthday celebration of Obasanjo in Abeokuta, Ogun State. And that's all news on Daily Sun newspaper.
New Telegraph. From the top, we have MIF, 18.6 million Nigerians experiencing food insecurity. Back CBN on MPR hike, fuel price, electricity tariff, grappling will have fiscal cost of 3% on 2024 GDP. Binance ends Naira services in Nigeria. Fraudulent concessions, rep summon blue economy transport ministers. And Sanwo-Olu raises bursary scholarship for indigents, fiscally challenged students. EFCC arrests 21 charged CAR bound food laden trucks. You can find details on page 9, 10, and 28 of New Telegraph. Body of benches admits Amechi 4,411 new lawyers to bar. The big story here says investor confidence. Man tackles FG over expatriate employment levy. The writer says 335 firms distressed, 767 shut down in 2023. Nigerian economy not in distress, says Tinubu, insists country on right path. Pleads for patience. States FGs attracted $30 billion FDI to issue executive order for National Police Veterans Day celebration. If you're interested in the story, you can find more details on page 2 and 3 of New Telegraph newspaper. Only African-style democracy will stop politicians from winning by hook or crook. This is coming from Obasanjo, and you can find details on page 4. Pharmacy Council to students, avoid Cotonou, Togo, Cameroon varsities. You can find more details on page 29 for those people or those looking for admission. If you are looking to go outside the shores of Nigeria, they are saying that you should avoid Cotonou, Togo, and Cameroon varsities. So I think if you really want to go there, maybe you should look for more details, look for more information about these schools that you are thinking of going, and then so that you will not end up spending years and then at the end of the day nothing is being accounted for. And on health, we have Lassa fever. Benue records 13 deaths, 725 suspected, 55 confirmed cases. You can find more details on page 30. IGP bans POS machines at police stations, outposts. More details you can find on page 6. And the down part of the paper says Sharia Council to federal government tackling corruption will address prevailing situation in Nigeria, as government to reflect on implication of state police. We are scaling up technology to overman terrorists. This is coming from Minister, and you can find more details on page 2 and 6. Now, Tinubu has no excuse not to restructure Nigeria. This is coming from Afenifere, and he says under Obasanjo, the president took FG to court 31 times in an effort to implement restructuring. You can find more details if you're so interested in this particular story on page 4 of New Telegraph newspaper. And the last story here says, study, sugary or diet sodas can raise irregular heart rhythm. More details you can find on page 29. And that's all the stories you can find on the New Telegraph.
Before we move to other papers, we would like to go on a short break. Please don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Make your everyday informative, make your everyday count. Know your world, daily affairs, national and international, with authentic news events as they unfold on Global News and Zoom on Nigeria, Monday to Friday at 1 p.m.
Thank you for not going anywhere. It's still the dailies on Echo Television International. Don't forget that we are live on Facebook and YouTube. I am Rachel Tanze, and I still have Lois with me in the studio. Thank you, Lois. All right, so moving on to the papers. On Nigerian News Direct, the big story, economic hardship. Tinubu insists Nigeria's economy is making progress, not in distress. Set aside 200 billion naira to support businesses. More details can be found on page 21. IGP bans POS, other money transfer devices at the police station. Transcorp Power gains 10% in first day of trading. We saw that yesterday it was listed on the NGX, and we are seeing already a 10% gain for Transcorp. You can find details on page 4. AFCC intercepts 21 foot-loaded trucks headed to Chad and Cameroon. Binance to suspend all Naira-related services in Nigeria from March 8. Details can be found on page 22. Sanwo-Olu increases bursary scholarship for indigenous physically challenged. Ogun MSME Clinic, federal government doles out 150,000 naira cash reward to 200 exhibitors. We have a picture story showing that activity in Ogun State. You can find details on page 4, and that's all the news on Nigerian News Direct.
Now to Rachel, you know, I wanted to talk about this particular story, the bursary issue, before I go into my paper.
Yeah.
You know, I remember when I was in the university, I got that, I think, twice. Yes, because the first year I was not able to register, but I was able to get my 200 level to my 300 level. But I think something happened that I couldn't get for 400 level. I think it's really important that more states, because I don't know if there are states that don't do it, but most, I'm sure I know of Kaduna. I'm from Kaduna State, and Kaduna State did that when I was in the university. And it's really important that states support students, especially now that school fees have been increased and all of that. It will go a long way in supporting these students while they are, you know, still in school and trying to get one or two things. You want to get your handouts or textbooks or something. It's not that much, but I know it's very helpful. It will really help.
I keep saying that one of the core reasons we do have a government and we have a mixed economy is that the government exists to subsidize services, most especially basic. And we can talk about health, we can talk about education, and then these are the two basic what was the word for it? These are the two basic necessities, facilities, or needs in an economy that the government is supposed to step in to subsidize. And that is why anytime we see that our federal institutions, be it in the health sector and the education, are not doing well, it is concerning and alarming. And these are not, I believe that it's not even supposed to be optional for the government to think whether or not they should. It should be there as a law, as a policy, as a regulation, as a rule. And then what will make the difference is how much effort a particular state government is putting into giving this scholarship and aiding students in school. And we don't have to wait for student loans. We don't have to wait for grants and scholarship. At the state level, you as a government and an administration, you are supposed to be constantly trying to make education accessible to the common man. Let people that are able to apply have access to it. And we just keep seeing how Lagos State keeps setting the pace in everything. And then we are looking forward. I want to hear that of Plateau. I want to hear that of Nasarawa. I want to hear that of Benue. I want to hear that of virtually every state. And it doesn't matter. Just as you said, you were able to access it 200, 300. At whatever level a student is able to access this aid, it will go a long way. Be it your first year, be it your final year, but just at some point, you should be able exactly. And then the government should be deliberate and also consistent. These are things that should not come with administration and go with administration. Yes. It should stay with whoever is the current administrator in that state, and then we will grow educationally. And I'm just looking forward to a better Nigeria, and we'll just have to keep hoping that better days are coming.
Of course, hoping. Yes. The Metrics newspaper, from the top we have LCCI cautions federal government expatriate employment levy will impact FDI. UCL, you never know. Haaland hits at move away from Man City. That's sports. You can find more details on page 16. That's for the sports fans. And confusion as federal government backtracks, says UAE has not lifted visa ban on Nigeria. The writer says the document didn't emanate from the Nigerian or UAE government. This is coming from Onanuga. The big story here says federal government will be in war of words over food aid from Ukraine. The writer says donation from Ukraine aimed to save Nigeria from hunger caused by economic mismanagement. This is coming from Obi. Says it's sad Nigeria receiving aid from a country it has potentials to be better than. Accepting grains from Ukraine does not make Nigeria a failed country. FG fights back. You can find more details on this war of words between the federal government and Peter Obi on page 2 of the Metrics newspaper. EFCC intercepts 21 food-laden trucks bound for Chad and Cameroon. You can find more details on page 3. Traffic diversion on 3rd Mainland Bridge. Island Iana Oworo bound carriageway closed. Bezos dethrones Musk as world's richest man. Dangote maintains top spot in Africa. Disney animation Kugali new series Iwaju premiered. Again, Army reiterates commitment to defending democracy in Nigeria. And the last story here says terrorists abduct over 100 female IDPs in Borno State.
On First News newspaper, the big story: we are not interested in staging any coup coming from Nigerian army. And of course, even if the army have any plan, I don't think they will come on the papers and say like we are planning on having a coup. They will not say that, obviously.
But we are hoping that they are not.
We are hoping they are
just
not.
like they have said.
Just as they have said.
They're not planning
Yes,
for
we
it,
are hoping so.
Our prayers is not to see that the army comes to power, but we want to see a better Nigeria.
It's going to be a setback.
Yes, it's serious setback because for people that have experienced it, they, from stories we've heard from people that have experienced the military regime, it wasn't a good period for people.
Wasn't.
Your freedom is no longer there and all of that. And right now we're enjoying.
There was abuse of power.
Abuse of power is there, you know, one thing or the other that is not so right.
And a lot of looting, Lois. We are still recovering Abacha from Abacha up till today. And you wonder how much is the loot. So even the military regime was not void of corruption. That's one thing that we should know, that it doesn't make them some messiah that they are void of corruption, or there was a lot of suffering and the reports were not that good for us to even wish that. And going back to a military regime is just backwardness whatsoever. The world is evolving fast, and what we need are selfless leaders, not a military regime. What we just need is a government that knows what they're doing, know where they're heading to, and are willing to be
policies and
and are willing to be
detrimental
exactly. That is what we need right now in Nigeria, and we are hoping for that eventually. Still vowing to continue to defend Nigeria's constitution. Bank of Ghana suspends GTB First Bank Forex licenses. Customs seized 120 trucks of smuggled grains in 2 weeks coming from Adeneyi. Says NCS will auction confiscated food items. Dangote plans London trading firm for Lagos refinery. This is a report. Still on the paper, Facebook, Instagram suffer global outage as Elon Musk takes dig at Meta over development. Dollar bribery video called by Kano anti-graft agency from probing Ganduje. 3 women convicted for selling new Naira notes at parties. Nigeria economy not distressed, a statement from President Tinubu. I'm not desperate to be president, says Peter Obi. And at the top of the paper, we have 30 trillion Naira ways and means grand corruption, a statement from Mogalo, and accept a breakdown and a better, explanation to Nigerians on what this trillions of Naira was used for. It is grand corruption in so many ways. And then we hope to see what will be the outcome of the probe of this money eventually. Blueprint for restructuring Nigeria ready, Afenifere tells Tinubu, and that's all the news on First News newspaper.
Moving now to Daily Independent. From the top, we have Obasanjo, a champion for good governance, says Governor Abiodun. EFCC intercepts 21 food-loaded trucks heading to Chad, Cameroon, and other countries. On high energy cost, telcos spend over 60 billion naira monthly on diesel, canvas tariff review. On health matters, measles outbreak hits 5 Benue LGAs. Lassa fever deaths on the rise. You can find more details on page 29. Sanwo-Olu increases bursary scholarship for intelligence fiscally challenged students. Army has no desire to truncate Nigeria's democracy. This is coming from Lagbaja. You can find more details on page 29 of Daily Independent newspaper. Tinubu has no excuse not to restructure Nigeria, says Afenifere. Nigeria's economy not in distress, progressing, says the president. And the last story here says, engaging a child as house help will land you in trouble, minister warns. That's all of the stories on the Daily Independent.
On the Daily Times, we have aviation stakeholders fret over Orsanye report and revenue deductions. The big story, tribalism, election rigging, bane of leadership, in Nigeria, says Jonathan. More details can be found on page 2. EFCC blames banks for 70% of financial crimes. About power plant to feed national grid, coming from Minister. 888 candidates fail law school exams. And on food crisis, federal government justifies grains donation from Ukraine. EFCC arrests 21 truck smuggling food items across Nigeria borders. And I know that I should be worried about Nigeria, but I can't help to think about the people that are also expecting those grains. It means there's also hunger on another side of the world eventually. And I know that I should be worried more on Nigeria because I am here and I need the food also. But you can't help but think that, you know what, there are other people too that are waiting. People in Chad, people in Cameroon that are also depending on us. If only we had secured ourselves food-wise, we wouldn't be in a situation where we cannot freely export, because this is also revenue generation to us. And then this is someone else's business. This is someone else's meat at the end of the day. And if they're not able to, it means somebody is not making money, and it's just increasing the poverty rate in the country and all of that. So it's really sad. And I'm just looking forward to more balance in our economy in West Africa, because you see how we are intertwined. And once there's a shutdown somewhere, it's affecting another country either way, because apart from Nigeria, every other country just like pockets are just around tiny. We saw that of Niger. We saw how traders were losing perishable goods amounting to billions because they can't take it to Niger. And then now we're seeing that of Chad and Cameroon. And I just hope that eventually we have some balance, because we are in Nigeria, but our actions and activities here in security on food, we can see that it's also affecting other neighboring countries.
Of course, it's affect because we're intertwined, just like you said. No man is an island, no country is an island as well. We all need each other for one thing or the other. So if these things are not taken, probably they have reasons to, they should have reasons to intercept those trucks that are moving. But then there should be a balance on how things should be done rightly, so that we will not have issues of interception of food that people are supposed to consume. You know, because hunger is not just Nigeria.
It's not only Nigeria. Yes, Lois, you can move to the next paper.
Yes, the next paper here is the Business Times. Obasanjo profiles Zimbabwean model to address Nigeria's inflation. More details you can find on page 6. Man seeks discontinuation of expatriate employment levy. Page 2 will give you more details on this particular news story. Why investors oversubscribe CBN open market operation bill. This is coming from Cardoso. And MIF to federal government, addressing food security, your swift priority. The writer says MPC decision to tighten monetary policy will contain inflation pressures on Naira. Central Bank of Nigeria should concentrate on its core mandates. This is coming from Ade Folarin, and you can find more details on page 7. Regulatory reforms across Africa hindering implementation of AFCFTA. How inflation radically changes economic ideas. You can find details on page 17. It's time to reposition Nigeria's economy for long term. This is coming from Professor Mogalu, and more details you can find on page 4. That's all the news stories you can find on the Business Times.
On Business Day newspaper, the big story: investment migration offers Nigeria opportunities to boost FX inflows. How foreign airlines hide under low inventory tickets to exploit Nigerians. Binance bails out of Naira operations after clampdown. You can find details on page 30, and that's on news on Business Day newspaper.
Now, Nature News says Kebbi government commits 2.6 billion naira to buy fertilizer. VSF empowers 3,000 farmers with dry season inputs. The big story on this newspaper says carbon sick equity to plant 2 million trees in 2024. On food crisis, Dawn backs food importation. You can find details on page 5. We honor 3,500 naira promise per bag of cement, says BOA. And CAC ran asking the North to give livestock feed palliative. You can find details of more of these on page 7. From Kogi, federal government supports 534 farmers to boost rice production. CNG-powered vehicles to increase as new retrofitting center opens. On nature care, apple mint and your digestive system. And the last story here says 2 moments that prove golf is in a good spot. You can find more details on page 21.
And this is how far we go on the show today. Lois, thank you for doing this with me.
Thank you for having me.
And to our viewer, thank you for not going anywhere. We will come your way tomorrow, the same time. Goodbye.